Yesterday, Senator Rick Scott came to Palm Beach Synagogue to meet with members of our community and discuss the recent attack and terrorist hostage-taking in Texas and other acts of anti-Semitism that are growing throughout the country and the world, and to discuss how we in the state of Florida can and should and must combat anti-Semitism. In this week's Torah portion, we have all the civil laws of justice between man and man. But one of the laws in this week's Torah portion doesn't seem at glance to be just. The Torah says that when you loan money to someone and they give you a collateral, if the person who borrowed the money is poor and they give you their blanket with which they sleep at night, says the Torah, the lender must return the blanket to the poor man each and every night so he could go to sleep and be warm. And then the Torah says that if the lender does not return the collateral to the poor man, with what will he lie down to sleep? And he will cry out to God because he will be cold at night. And God says, I will hear his cry because I am compassionate. And the question is, if I loaned money to someone, my only collateral and motivation for him to pay me back is because I hold on to something that is his. But if I return his blanket to him every night, then why should he pay me back? How is that just that I need to return the collateral every night? Why take a collateral in the first place? And here Nachmanides points out that the Torah says the reason you should return the collateral is ki chanun ani, that I will hear the cry of the poor man because I am compassionate. But there are two words for compassion. One is rachum, which is merciful, and then there's chanun. Chanun is from the root word chinam, free, which means that there are two types of compassion. Sometimes you're compassionate to a person who is deserving of compassion, but sometimes you're compassionate to a person because, not necessarily they're deserving, but because you are compassionate. Chanun from the word chinam, free. And that is the message of the Torah. Just like God says, I do so many acts of kindness to you, even though you may not be deserving. After all, what did you do to deserve to be born in the first place? So too, to this poor person, even though according to the letter of the law, he doesn't deserve the collateral back until he pays back, go above and beyond the letter of the law because you don't want him to cry out to God, because God says, I hear the cry of the poor and the downtrodden because I am merciful, and chanun from the word chinam, even to those who are undeserving of kindness. And if you want God to do undeserved kindness with you, you must do undeserved kindness with others. The message that Rick Scott said was that we as a society cannot tolerate anti-Semitism. And it's a reflection on the entire society that tolerates anti-Semitism. And therefore he said we must praise and laud those who stand up and fight anti-Semitism and celebrate them, and at the same time we must call out on social media and on TV and in the press those who are anti-Semitic to show that we will not tolerate acts of hate and anti-Semitism. There's a story told of the mayor of New York City, Mayor LaGuardia, who was Jewish. And at night, he would often be a judge in night court. And it was during the years of Depression, the Great Depression. And one night, a woman was brought in, poor woman. She had stolen a loaf of bread. And the police officer caught her and said to the judge she needs to be penalized. And the store owner was there to prosecute. And the judge, LaGuardia, asked her, why did you steal? And she said, my daughter's husband left her, and she has 2 children, and there's no food in the house, so I stole the loaf of bread to feed my grandchildren. The judge said, LaGuardia said, I need to penalize you. That's the law. It's either $10 or 10 days in jail. But then he took out his wallet, took off his hat, and put a dollar bill into the hat. And then he said, I am penalizing everyone in this courtroom for living in a community where a woman has to steal a loaf of bread to feed her grandchildren. And he asked the bailiff to take around the hat, and they ended up collecting $47.50. $10 went to pay the fine, and the rest went to the poor woman to feed her family. Yes, as a society, we have to look out for those who are weakest and most vulnerable, for the downtrodden. And yes, we must stand up to evil and hatred and anti-Semitism as a community, as a society, as a country. As a matter of fact, there is something called Anti-Semite of the Year. A special watchdog to stop anti-Semitism started a program where every year they have candidates for the biggest anti-Semite of the year. And this year, the winner, so to speak, was the chairman of the board of Ben & Jerry, who singled out Jews in Judea and Samaria to boycott them. And this woman, her name is Mrs. Andrea Mittal, the chairman of the board of Ben & Jerry, was voted by over 10,000 people as Anti-Semite of the Year. This is what we must do. We must be vigilant and stand up and fight against anti-Semitism. Thank you, Senator Rick Scott, for taking a stand at Palm Beach Synagogue against anti-Semitism. Have a wonderful day.